What is going on, everybody? Silver and Gray here. It is my new name. It's not on my channel as of right now because I still have to wait for another 8 to 6 days to renew it. But anyways, so much further ado, we are making a video on Far Cry 6, and this is basically my favorite Far Cry game in the series. But overall, Far Cry 3 is still my number one favorite Far Cry game of all the games so far. But overall, I still believe, I think, to me, in my personal opinion, I love Far Cry 3, I love Far Cry Primal, and I love Far Cry 6. So I thought I'd put that out there real quick as possible. So, here we go. I want to talk about Far Cry 6 as a whole. You know, not just about what this game does in terms of its gameplay mechanics, its gunplay, its overall setting, and basically what this game does for me as a gamer, and what I truly feel about this game in general as well. So, okay. So I do want to put a little bit of information out there too. Far Cry 6 to me felt very reminiscent of that of Far Cry 3 in terms of not of its story. That's wrong, but it has to do with of its open worldness. It has to do with its activities and its environment, basically its setting of the game. And I think that's what makes Far Cry 6 so loved by me, especially. And I'm sure that a lot of other Far Cry fans actually enjoyed Far Cry 6 a little bit more than Far Cry 5, but that's besides the point. So, now, what I really truly thought about Far Cry 6 as a whole, not just as a game as it is, or FPS shooter as it is, I do feel that I think Far Cry 6 makes a good balance of its gunplay, its world, its architecture, its environments, and it's just what this game really does and what it does somewhat differently from what I felt what Far Cry 5 did. I felt like that Far Cry 5 was a good game. I really enjoyed it. And now I will put this in here as well. I recently installed Far Cry 5 again, not too long ago, and I tried playing that game for maybe about at least a half hour, if that. And I'm going to tell you right now, I couldn't play Far Cry 5 for at least 5 minutes. And there's a reason for this. I found out that Far Cry 6 and Far Cry 5, the gunplay is so much better in 6 than in 5. And what I mean by that, with the gunplay specifically, I really think that the gunplay in Far Cry 6, it's more balanced. It's more fluent and fluid. But in Far Cry 5, when I was trying to fire my assault rifle specifically, it had so much recoil. And I've noticed that in Far Cry 6, especially with the weapon mechanics, you know, the gunplay, obviously, I haven't had any type of recoil, none whatsoever, because I feel like it has to do with the mods. You could do different types of weapon modifications on your weapons to make it a lot more efficient in terms of, you know, like bullet damage or recoil, or for that matter. And Far Cry 5 didn't have that. And I think that's why I think Far Cry 5, for me, is a little bit more, it's not as distinctive of what Far Cry 6 does in that category. So I thought I'd put that out there real quick. Now, I want to talk about villains. I really feel like that Far Cry 5's villain, a lot of people think that Joseph Seed wasn't really that much of a villain, but he was. He really was, because if you had to think of it this way in a matter of context, is the fact that Joseph Seed, I understand, played by a very, really good actor. His name is Greg Brick, Bryk. I believe I sounded that correctly. But anyways, what I'm saying is that I feel like that Greg Brick, or whatever his name was, did a really good job portraying Joseph Seed. But I felt like that Joseph Seed he was a good villain, but I don't think he was all that great, in my personal opinion. It's not because of the cult thing. It has to do with the fact that what his motivations were, and whether if the intentions were good or bad, it's just that those intentions were very unbalanced to me, in my personal preference or opinion. Now, while I do believe that Giancarlo Esposito did a really fantastic job playing the role as the villain in 6. And while I do believe that the villain in Far Cry 6 was a little bit more monologue-y than anything else, but I think that's what where the point was supposed to be in terms of that, in terms of its story arc of that. But overall, I still think that, I don't know. I really can't say whether if Joseph Seed or Giancarlo playing the villain in Far Cry 6. For me, it feels like that it's there's a little bit of balance between those two villains between Far Cry 5 and Far Cry 6, because they had their own, like I said, they had their own types of motivations. I feel like the motivation for Joseph Seed's villain arc in Far Cry 5 is a little bit better than Giancarlo Esposito's role as the villain in Far Cry 6. But overall, I still think that they still did a really good job of portraying these characters and how these arcs are different from that, from each entry of the Far Cry series. And I think that's what made these games so lovable in its own unique way. So, anyways, now I want to talk a little bit more of the gunplay in this game. The reason why is because, like I said, I love the gunplay in Far Cry 6. It's so much better than 5's, like I said. Not just because of the 5's weapon system. It has more recoil than ever because, like I said, it has to do with, especially in Far Cry 6, you can put different types of weapons modifications on them in the game. But in 5, it wasn't like that. And, every time when you shot with an LMG or an assault rifle, any automatic pistols, or not pistols, but any type of automatic weapons that you used, especially when it comes to ARs or LMGs, there was a lot of recoil. And you weren't able to put any types of weapon modifications on your weapons. And I think that's why I think Far Cry 5, for me, as I previously mentioned, that recently reinstalled it and tried to play it for at least maybe, 5-10 minutes, and I couldn't even do it. I played it merely about a solid minute and a half, if that. And it was atrocious. And I just did not enjoy what I was playing. And like I said, I did like Far Cry 5. It was a good setting. It was a good... I liked the way how it was. I liked the way how the world was. But the gunplay mechanic in 5 is the worst compared to Far Cry 6. Now, one may argue that you might think that, well, Far Cry 5 has some better gunplay mechanics. That's fine. That is your prerogative. That is your opinion or preference. That's okay. That's why I make these types of videos, is because so that way I like to put my own preference or opinions out there. So, enough with the gunplay. Now, as I previously mentioned, talking about the world of Far Cry 6, I think what makes Far Cry 6 a little bit better than from what Far Cry 5 did, or Far Cry 4 for that matter, is in fact that I love the fact that you can go off the beaten path. That's basically the initial premise of the open world genre as a whole. No matter if it's an Assassin's Creed or Far Cry or any other open world games that you could possibly muster to think about, or Elden Ring for that matter. So that's where I'm trying to get the context of everything. So I really think the open world of Far Cry 6 it's very reminiscent of that of Far Cry 3. And I think that's what I love about 6 mostly. It's like, not just because of the fact that I praise the gunplay in 6. It's not because of the fact that I praise the environments a little bit more robust and very pleasing aesthetic to what 3 did. But I think that another thing what I love about Far Cry 6 environments open world as well is the fact that there are some very nice urban settings as well. It's not just about going out to Sandy Beach. It's not just because you're going hang gliding or paragliding through like a robust environment to where there's cliffs and then you have like a big lake in front of you and you're trying to go to a specific destination. That's where the Far Cry 3 reminiscence comes in, and I think that's what makes Far Cry 6 so, for me, so enjoyable. Now, I will say one thing here too. The stealth mechanics in 6 are way better than 5 and 4, because that's one thing I've kind of noticed within the world of Far Cry 6 as well, is that, when it comes to stealth, I think Far Cry 6 just does it way better than 4 and possibly 3 a little bit. even 5. I mean, but in 5 you were able to do, you were able to mix like certain types of things in order to highlight the world of where your enemies are, and you're able to know where they were. And you're able to do that within Far Cry 6 as well. But there are certain types of, it's like a I really can't explain it. It's sorry about that. It's in the form of a grenade. But what it does, it highlights the people in the world, and I think it just does it better in terms of that, especially if you want to go pure stealth in most of the areas within the game, especially if you're doing outpost liberating or just like liberating a certain part of the game or something like that. It's like you can stealth all the way through the game entirely most of the time if you want to. You can, and it's very, very viable. I've done it, and that's what makes it more exciting. I found out that in 5, you're always constantly getting noticed. And I also noticed one thing in 6 as well, is that you will get noticed, but it's not as... I feel like the AI in Far Cry 6 is a little bit better. It is a little bit better than 5's, because in 5's, the AI system, when it comes to stealth mechanics in 5, it felt like that they were always noticing you, and no matter what you were doing, or whatever it was, you're always getting noticed. In 6, however, I will mention this as well, is that there's a little bit of role-playing mechanics in 6 as well, and I think that's why I like 6 a lot better than 5, is because with the role-playing mechanics, as I was stating, it has to do with what kind of gear there are gear sets in this game, and I had this gear set to where it provides you to be a lot more stealthier in certain situations if you want to go pure stealth. And I'll probably maybe make a separate video on that, so that way I could be able to make things a little bit more understandable as to what I truly mean, why stealth, especially in Far Cry 6, it's a much better mechanic in 6 than it was in 5. And it's a lot better than 4's, and it's actually a lot better than 3's. I mean, but overall, of course, when it comes to first-person shooters like games like Far Cry, I do believe that the stealth mechanics somewhat do change a little bit. Not a huge much, but the stealth mechanics in Far Cry 6 is just a little bit more. It's more interesting. And that's another thing why I like the stealth system in Far Cry 6 so much. Now, to conclude this video almost here, I will say I think Far Cry 6 is in fact my number. It's basically, I would have to say it's my number 2 favorite in the Far Cry series. And for good reason. I mean, it recently just came out with a new game plus mode not too long ago. I believe it was a couple of months back of last year. And so I thought I'd put that in there as well. And so that way, if you wanted to go back and replay Far Cry 6, by all means, go replay it. Because like I said, I had a blast with my first time around, and I'm having so much more fun in the second playthrough on New Game Plus. So I highly advise, if you want to replay it, go replay it. That's all I can say. So, yeah, man. But if you want to have any more questions or comments, please put them in the comment section below. I'll be more than happy to reply back and have a really good time watching this video. I really enjoy making these videos as much as I can and as humanly possible. And I really enjoy that as you see fit. If you want to put that like on there, comment, subscribe, hit that notification bell. It's all good. More power to you. I'm not forcing anything like that on you. If you want to do that, that's fine. You don't have to, but that's the kind of YouTuber I am. I don't go out there and tell people to subscribe all the time or put a like or hit that notification bell, because that's not the kind of YouTuber I am. I want to be a YouTuber to where it's like I enjoy making my content as I see fit and how I want to be able to do it on my own time and try to find that time to do so. But anyways, this is Silver and Gray here. Thank you for tuning in. Have a great rest of your day. Have a good upcoming weekend, and peace.